Hey there, gearheads and history buffs. Get ready to pop the hood on one of the biggest names in automotive history, Mercedes-Benz. You've sent in some fascinating pieces about their journey, and let me tell you, it's a wild ride from humble beginnings to global icon.
What's really intriguing is how Mercedes-Benz's story goes way beyond shiny cars. It's a window into technological innovation, cutthroat competition, and the ever-evolving relationship between machines and society.
Right, we're talking horseless carriages, epic road trips, and rivalries that would make even Tesla and Edison blush. So to really appreciate how this automotive empire came to be, we need to rewind to 1844 Germany. We're diving into the early life of Karl Benz.
Now, you might assume a titan of industry like Benz would have a silver spoon upbringing, but that's far from the truth. He was born into poverty, facing hardship from the get-go after his father's untimely death.
That's right, he was just a toddler when his dad passed. Must have been incredibly tough, especially back then. But here's where Benz's story takes an interesting turn. His mom, despite facing difficult circumstances, was determined to give her sons a good education. She knew that was his ticket to a better life.
And that education, especially in chemistry and mechanics, would plant the seeds for Benz's future innovations. It's fascinating how early experiences shape a person's trajectory.
It's like those classes weren't just about equations and formulas. They were sparking a passion in young Karl. But it wasn't all textbooks and lectures. Enter Ferdinand Rettenbacher, Benz's professor, who threw open the doors to a whole new world of possibilities.
Redenbacher was a visionary, a true pioneer in mechanical engineering. He believed the future was beyond steam engines. Imagine that challenging the dominant technology of the time. He instilled in his students, including Benz, this fascination with horseless carriages, a concept that absolutely captivated Karl's imagination.
It's like Redenbacher planted a seed, and Benz, with his mechanical mind and drive to create, was the perfect ground for it to grow. But even with a good education and a head full of innovative ideas, Benz's path to success wasn't exactly paved in asphalt, or even cobblestones for that matter.
You're absolutely right. Benz's early career was a bit of roller coaster, a mix of engineering gigs, construction jobs, even a stint designing scales. He was like a sponge, soaking up practical knowledge from every experience, even the failures.
It makes you think about those early struggles, those detours, as essential parts of his journey. They weren't setbacks. They were setting the stage for something bigger.
Precisely. Because in 1871, at 27 years old, armed with experience and a burning desire to create the horseless carriage of his dreams, Benz teams up with August Ritter to start their own company.
So we're talking about more than just tinkering in a shed now. This is legit business territory. But I'm guessing it wasn't all smooth sailing from there.
You'd be right. You see, even brilliant minds like Benz need a good team. And unfortunately, his partnership with Ritter was, well, let's just say it was fraught with challenges. Think financial constraints, disagreements, and even local authorities confiscating their tools at one point. Talk about a major roadblock.
Wow, that's some serious drama. Starting a business is never easy, but facing that kind of adversity early on could have completely derailed someone with less determination.
And this is where the story takes a turn you might not expect. Enter Bertha Ringer, Benz's soon-to-be wife. She wasn't just a supportive partner, she was a savvy businesswoman in her own right.
Okay, spill the tea. What did Bertha do?
Bertha saw Karl's potential, believed in his vision, and she put her money where her heart was. She used her own inheritance to buy out the troublesome business partner, essentially saving the company. Talk about a power move.
That's incredible. It really highlights the power of partnership, not just in romance, but in business and innovation as well.
And it allowed Karl to finally dedicate himself fully to his true passion, building the horseless carriage that would change the world. It's easy to think about those early cars as just horse-drawn carriages with an engine slapped on them, but Benz went way beyond that.
Oh, I bet. So what made the Benz patent motor wagon such a game changer back in 1885? What were people seeing for the very first time?
This was a vehicle designed from the ground up around the engine. 3-wire wheels, a lightweight frame, and a revolutionary internal combustion engine. Benz wasn't just trying to replace horses, he was inventing a whole new mode of transportation.
That's incredible. I can only imagine the reactions. 7 miles per hour probably felt like warp speed back then.
You're right, it was a completely alien concept to people. Some were amazed by the ingenuity, while others saw it as a noisy, smelly beast. It's funny how new technologies can be both fascinating and frightening at the same time, isn't it?
Totally. You mentioned those early cars weren't exactly known for their long-distance capabilities.
Yeah.
What changed that perception? Was it Bertha's famous road trip?
You nailed it. In 1888, Bertha decided to take matters into her own hands, literally. Picture this. She packs up her two sons, hops into the motor wagon, and embarks on a 66-mile journey to visit her mother without telling Karl or the authorities. Can you imagine the audacity?
That's legendary. Not to mention practically unheard of for a woman in those days. What was she hoping to prove?
It was a bold statement about the potential of the automobile, and a testament to her own adventurous spirit. Remember those dusty, rough roads we talked about? She navigated them all, facing breakdowns, skeptical onlookers, and even having to stop at a pharmacy to refuel talk about the original pit stop.
A story. It sounds like she wasn't just a passenger. She was a mechanic, a navigator, and a PR mastermind all rolled into one.
Exactly. Bertha's journey wasn't just about covering miles, it was about shattering perceptions. She proved that the automobile was more than just a novelty. It could be a reliable and liberating mode of transport. This wasn't just a publicity stunt, it was a pivotal moment in automotive history.
I bet Karl was both terrified and incredibly proud when she returned home. Talk about a supportive spouse.
I can only imagine. Now, while all of this was happening, there was another key player emerging on the scene, Gottlieb Daimler, along with his brilliant engineer, Wilhelm Maybach. They formed Daimler Motors, and that's when things really started to heat up.
Ooh, competition. I love it when a little rivalry pushes everyone to do their best work. What made Daimler and Maybach such formidable challengers?
They were a force to be reckoned with. Daimler was a shrewd businessman, and Maybach was a true engineering genius. Together, they created some groundbreaking innovations, like the four-stroke engine, which revolutionized engine design and paved the way for modern automobiles. They even developed the first motorcycle.
Wow, talk about pushing the boundaries. So you've got Benz focusing on the automobile, Daimler and Maybach innovating on multiple fronts. It sounds like the early 1900s were a period of explosive growth for the automotive industry.
Absolutely. And in the midst of this technological arms race, a new name emerged that would become synonymous with luxury and performance: Mercedes.
Okay, I know a little something about this part of the story, but for those who don't, tell us, who was Mercedes, and how did her name become forever linked with one of the most iconic car brands in history?
Well, this is where Emil Jelinek, a wealthy businessman with a passion for speed and a keen eye for marketing, enters the picture. He was blown away by the power and performance of Daimler's engines, so much so that he commissioned a custom-built car in 1901, a 35-horsepower beast that he named after his daughter, Mercedes.
What a tribute, but why name a car after his daughter?
Jelinek was a savvy businessman. He knew that a catchy, memorable name could give them an edge in the market. And he was right. This new Mercedes wasn't just powerful, it was sleek, elegant, and shattered speed records, quickly gaining recognition across Europe. This was a car that exuded luxury and performance.
It's amazing how a name can become so deeply intertwined with a brand's identity. So we've got Benz and his revolutionary motor wagon, Daimler and Maybach's relentless innovation, and now the rise of the Mercedes name, captivating the world with its speed and sophistication. The early 20th century was an incredible time for the automobile, but then, as often happens, history throws a curveball in the form of World War I.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine the impact on a company like Mercedes.
It was a time of immense upheaval. Both Benz and Daimler Motors were essentially forced to shift their production to support the war effort. Instead of sleek automobiles, they were building trucks, engines, and other equipment for the German army.
It's a stark reminder that even during times of technological advancement, world events can drastically alter the course of innovation. And unfortunately, the story takes an even darker turn during World War II.
You're right. It's impossible to talk about Mercedes-Benz's history without acknowledging the difficult chapter of World War II. Like many German companies at the time, Daimler-Benz, as the merged company was then known, became deeply entangled with the Nazi regime.
This is the part of the story that's often glossed over. But it's essential to understand the full picture. What happened?
Daimler-Benz used forced labor on a massive scale during the war. Prisoners of war and individuals targeted by the Nazi regime were forced to work in their factories under horrific conditions. It's a dark stain on their legacy, and a stark reminder of the human cost of war.
It's a sobering thought how a company known for innovation and luxury was also complicit in such atrocities. It makes you question the true meaning of progress, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and it highlights the importance of understanding the full context of history, even when it's uncomfortable.
So how did Mercedes-Benz even begin to rebuild after the war? both literally and in terms of reputation.
It was an arduous journey. Their factories were in ruins, the global economy was in shambles, and they were grappling with the moral weight of their wartime actions. But for Daimler-Benz, a key part of their post-war strategy was a return to what they knew best.
Motorsport.
It's interesting how they use something so competitive, so symbolic of speed and power, to try and reclaim their place in the world.
Exactly. It was a way to demonstrate their resilience, their engineering prowess, and their commitment to moving forward. And it worked. By the mid-1950s, Daimler-Benz had not only returned to profitability, but they were once again seen as a global leader in the automotive industry.
It's a remarkable story of resilience, but it's also a stark reminder of the complex legacy of iconic companies like Mercedes-Benz. From humble beginnings to global dominance, through periods of innovation, competition, and those dark chapters we can't afford to forget.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a story that goes way beyond horsepower and sleek design. It's a microcosm of history itself, full of triumphs, tragedies, and the constant tension between ambition and responsibility. What do you think is the biggest takeaway from all of this?
You know what really strikes me is how a company like Mercedes-Benz, with its roots in one man's relentless pursuit of a seemingly impossible dream, has become the symbol of so much more. It reflects our evolving relationship with technology, the power of innovation to drive progress, but also the ethical dilemmas that come with it. Makes you think about the kind of future we're building with technology and the importance of learning from the past.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that behind every invention, every technological leap forward, there's a human story filled with complexities and contradictions. And it's up to us to learn from those stories, to ensure that as we drive into the future, we're doing so with both innovation and responsibility at the wheel.